Zenless Zone Zero is our favorite music company's new game that's coming out on July 4th, and so am I.
Let's be real, we all love Nicole's assets. Okay, that makes sense.
Don't be embarrassed. I know you guys want Grace and Rena for reasons viable to the human eye, but here's some starter tips to help your team building, the best characters to get for your standard banner, and tips to really familiarize yourself with the mechanics of the game before we all start playing. First and foremost, we're gonna talk about our standard characters and what they all do. Your skewed gotcha brain wants 5 stars and mine does too. We're built like addicts and we're all the same. Currently, the ones to beeline for is definitely Grace and Rena. Rena's really good support that grants you an extra 10% defense ignore and boosts your electric damage. While I do see the value in Rena's kit, currently the game is more so skewed towards damage more than anything. If you get her, then she's a good future-proof pull for sure, but I definitely keep my eye out for a DPS character like Grace, which is a really good AoE DPS. She's really good to build up that daze bar that lets you do those cool chain attacks on enemies when the bar is full. Generally, she'll be really useful to have in early game. Now, during our fights, we have to mention this one mechanic in the game called Anomaly. Don't worry, I was confused at first, but let me lay it all out. Essentially, think of this mechanic like Break and Toughness from Star Rail. We deal enough damage from an element, that elemental anomaly also occurs. We have Shock for electric, Assault for physical, Corruption for ether, Burn for fire, and Shatter for ice, which is actually what I want to talk about specifically later in the video. These anomaly effects all have different things, but as a de facto rule, they always help you deal or just deal extra amount of damage to an enemy. And hey, damage is damage. If I can backhand slap the enemies harder, I will. Let's take Shatter for example. Once the enemies are frozen, the received crit damage they take is increased, which is really good for a pushy DPS like Ellen. You can build this anomaly stat up just like Elemental Mastery and Genshin with Anomaly Mastery, but I don't think your main DPS needs this stat, but more so a support that focuses on building this up. If my theory crafting's correct, that is. Let the thinker think and the chef cook. This elemental base system is really good when we go on to our team building, as we talk about the best team in Zenless Zone Zero. Easily that team is gonna be our mono ice team with our first limited unit, Ellen, Lycon, and Sokaku. Pretty obvious, Ellen is the best DPS in the game by a landslide, being our main DPS in the team. Lycon being able to fill up our daze meter really fast, Sokaku being a great support to Ellen for Shatter, while also being given to us for a whole whopping free, and finally Ellen not holding back with her damage. Gawagura was angry. Ellen's who you want to go for off the bat as our first limited DPS. As a standard, the first limited DPS in any gacha game is obviously going to be the best one, and Zenless is no different. Ellen's actually quite a fun character to play, which plays around her stacks and keeping those topped up so she can deal ice damage instead of physical damage. You do specific moves to get her stacks up, but you'll probably see that better if you play it for yourself. Xu Yang, who's also coming after Ellen, is also looking really good as well. Me personally, I'll be going for both for my 2 teams in endgame, and pairing Xu Yang with Nicole for my Aether team, and using my hidden funds to help me out. They're hidden because I'm broke. Subscribe so I can wail. But you might be asking, why do you even need a mono team in the first place? Why are you looking for me for answers? I'm not a geek. But in Zenless, characters have a specific passive that triggers if teammates of the same element are in the same team. So essentially, it basically procs up mono elemental teams. It does complicate team building, but in a good way, honestly. It incentivizes you to test out all of your characters and compositions you wouldn't think of before. One of the newer characters introduced called Lucy illustrates it and even takes it further a bit. She's a fire support that buffs fire damage, attack, and crit stats, but that's only specifically if you have a fire teammate or a character with her same faction. All the characters in the game are separated to different factions, so anyone who's in the same faction as her gets the buff. There's only 2 of them in that faction as of now, but when more characters in that faction get introduced, it makes her more usable outside her fire comps, which we love to see. But finally, to loop it all back to the standard characters, and what's the absolute best one to start? I'll be real, I don't really recommend re-rolling for a specific character unless you really want one. In my opinion, it kind of stunts your enjoyment of the game, playing the same stuff over and over again. That low-key sounds depressing. For me, Nekomata and Kalida personally are ones I don't want, since I don't really like their playstyles, but that doesn't devalue these as characters either. They're actually quite good for starter characters. Soldier 11 would actually be quite quite good as a starter character to help teach you the games. Basically, she does a fire attack, but she only does it if you time your attacks. If you just spam it, she doesn't do the fire attack. And obviously, if you deal physical damage when she can deal fire damage, like why would you? But I'd definitely be going for Grace or Rena. I'd be the most happy with Lycon though for an Ellen Mono Ice team. I swear I'm not doing it because I'm a furry. Keep it in, 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 keep it in.